So we've got Jenny Hodgson and Caitlin MacDonald from North Devon Hospital in Barnstaple. And they're going to talk about a very stressful on-call episode that in particular Caitlin had. And I'm sure in every lab that I've ever worked in, there's always been one person that has been the unfortunate person to get really, really awful on-call sessions. And I get a feeling Caitlin might be the one in Barnstaple. But I'll hand over to Caitlin and Jenny and they'll talk you through it. Hello? There we go. Hi, Caitlin. Hi, Jenny. I'll leave it to you.
Thank you. So, here our story begins on the 7th of July. So it was late, and for dramatic purposes, it was dark and thundery. And a brand new shiny BMS was on call. So Caitlin had only done 8 on calls previously. I mean, what could go wrong? Patient's blood's been sent from A&E. It arrives at the department at 11:36. And the clinical details we have are sepsis. The EDTA samples popped onto the analyzer, and the coag and chemistry sample is spun. Just for background, the patient is a 72-year-old female, and I'll let Caitlin take it from there.
Okay, so if we go to the next slide, we'll see that this is what greeted me with the first run of our sample. So it flagged cold eggs. So at North Devon, when that flags, we put them into the incubator to warm them up so that we can rerun them. So we put it straight into the incubator to warm up. We got quite, they're not bad results, they're okay. And then the coag sample finished spinning, and it looked like it hadn't been spun at all. So that was a good time. So I was like, maybe centrifuge has failed, so we'll stick it on again. And yeah, it came out looking exactly the same. So the sample was in the incubator for a wee while, and then we put it on the analyzer again. So the next slide shows you what the rerun looks like. So rerun, completely different. So the hemoglobin's gone from 101 to 175. Platelets have gone from 162 to 69. White count diffs totally changed. Yeah, so alarm bells are definitely ringing at this stage. So we made a film, because at North Devon we've got to make a film when our platelets go below 100 for unexpected reasons. And then I phoned A&E and said that the coag wasn't going to be run. Because although our coag analyzers, you can run them with some hemolysis, the fact that the sample looked like it hadn't been spun at all was a bit too much hemolysis going on. So we made the film and had that staining. And then the next slide is what greeted me at 1 in the morning when I looked at the film. Yeah, so we looked at this film, and there's definitely alarm bells ringing now. It doesn't look pleasant at all. There's lots, going on. So yeah, obviously, or maybe not obviously, you can see there's some red cell inclusions on the go. So the circles aren't meant to be there. And obviously, this was my 9th on-call session. I had no idea what was going on. Because of the pandemic, the morphology sessions for NetQuas on Parasites had actually been cancelled. So I kind of had like a vague idea what parasites looked like in a film, but I wasn't prepared in North Devon for any parasites to turn up. So you start going through what it could be. So I made another film because you never know, clutching at straws, it could be stain deposit, and it's obviously not. So, you know, while that's staining, go into the tea room, have a cup of tea, try and calm down. It's like 1:30 in the morning. And the chemist is like, oh, are you talking about this patient? Yeah, my chemistry sample was weird as well. And we're like, great. So we start phoning everyone. So we phone A&E and we start asking lots of questions about what the patient's been up to, you know, if they've been on holiday. We were actually about 5 months into the pandemic at this point. So you're kind of like, were you on a trip somewhere that you maybe shouldn't have been? And then we found out that she'd been to the Canary Isles in February, but we couldn't work out what it was. We did a DAT and it was negative. And then after phoning A&E, we phoned the hematology consultant and told them about our inclusions that we found. Unfortunately, there was a bit of a miscommunication because it was 2 in the morning, and I don't think the hematology consultant quite knew what I was trying to tell him. So then we start working on other solutions to why our film looked like this. And then Jenny walked through the door at 8 in the morning expecting a really easy early shift and was kind of ambushed by both me and the chemist by the microscope. So, oh, is there another one? Oh.
Next slide.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Could you go to the next slide? Sorry. Yeah. So our second coag sample arrived, and it was exactly the same. So there was obviously a lot of hemolysis on the go. The patient had phoned, we think had phoned 111 because they were short of breath, and you know, all indications were pointing towards COVID. So they came through our what was known as hot COVID A&E, and she had presented with like no abdominal pain, but had vomited when she was taking some tablets. GP records didn't show anything to explain why her blood film might look like that. It was stated that the patient looked well and was wondering why she was being cross-examined by the laboratory via the special registrar. We'd worked out that it was unlikely that there was any like intra or extravascular hemolysis going on. And we started thinking that it might have been a drug interaction because she'd been put on medication at her GP surgery like on the Monday, and she'd come in on the Thursday. But yeah, the registrar was a bit like, yeah, we'll get to her in a little minute. We're very busy. But yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I walked into the lab at 8 o'clock expecting a perfectly lovely, easy early shift. So if we could have the next slide, please. I'm literally pulled over to the microscope. What do you think this is? And I'm like, okay, I was like, can you look at these inclusions? And I'm like, that looks like malaria. The next thing we did was a retic count. As you can see, it's a beautiful graph. So her retic count's 21% or 645. So that's a cracker. As you can see, we did do a DAT and she was DAT negative previously. So if we can have the next slide, please. I'm trying to find her. So she's gone to ROBRA ward, which is the COVID ward. Again, I send in the nurse. can you question her, please? Like, has she been out walking? Has she, you know, she's fine, she's sat up, she's chatting, there's nothing wrong with her, everyone's happy, there doesn't seem to be any sort of worry. And I'm like, okay, but her retic count is 21%. So at about 10 to 9, my colleague walks in and I grab him and I'm like, look at this film. And he's like, yeah, he said he looks like malaria. And I was like, well, Caitlin had done a rapid diagnostic card, it was negative. He then goes, actually, no, I think it might be babesiosis. By which point he's done a parasitemia. We've got a parasitemia count of 18%. So normally counts for babesiosis are like less than 1%. We've brought in a microbiology consultant. He's very excited by it. We've got samples couriered to the School of Tropical Medicine in London. We've got pictures sent, so we've got all these pictures sent, done by the microbiologist. As you can see, there's a beautiful Maltese cross in the middle there, which is diagnostic of babesiosis. Tropical School of Medicine have got a parasitemia of 16%, so, you know, pretty spot on. She actually deteriorates quite quickly after that point, and she's transferred to intensive care. She stays on intensive care for about 2 hours. They arrange for an exchange transfusion with 8 units. She has 5, and then she's transferred to London via helicopter on the 8th of July at 10 p.m. So she's with us less than 24 hours. So if we go to the next slide, please. And it's just to say that we think the interference for this and discrepancy of the results due to the high parasitemia levels in the film. And the analyzer's a bit like, oh. I mean, that's how we felt too. And next slide, please. So this has actually been published. So Caitlin has been published in the American Journal of Hematology. It was also presented to the Society of Acute Medicine, and obviously there's a lovely report there from BBC News. And it was the first case of diagnosed tick-borne babesiosis in England. So basically, she'd gone out for a walk and got bitten by a tick. So walking can be dangerous. And final slide. I've put we, but Caitlin recently received a letter from the patient who found her through the journal article, and basically thanked her for all her hard work and dedication. And I think she does say basically saving her life. Yeah. So that's really nice as well. Yeah, I just want to say this is all based on a true story. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Caitlin and Jennifer. And I think it highlights one thing that sometimes practicing biomedical scientists don't realise is how important the job is, and the fact that they are there at the sharp end of it sometimes. Doctors don't know everything. They can't see down the microscope. So, yeah, sounds like you had fun on your 9th session on call. Hopefully it gets better. When you get to the 90th, it's probably easy peasy, but hopefully you'll never see something like that again. Oh, you never know.
Honestly,
if you do, you'll be straight on it. You'll know exactly what it is. So, at what stage, Caitlin, did you think that, you know, something's not quite right here? We've got a problem. The patient might, in theory, be clinically well, but you could see that things weren't well hematologically or even biochemically.
Yeah, so I think it was first it was when the coax sample came off, and it was a bit like, that's a bit weird. And then it was definitely on the second rerunning of the sample, it was like, why is that completely different?
And that was the same sample, wasn't it?
It was the same sample, yeah.
Which is I fail to understand that, but
Yeah, so yeah, one sample, two completely different results. So you do start kind of going, what is going on here?
But at least you got a chance for a cup of tea.
Well, this is it, yeah, at least,
And
yeah.
a rethink. But no, I think, as I said before, I think it just highlights the critical part biomedical scientists play. And it's often forgotten about, and it's nice to hear that the patient has responded positively. Obviously, she recovered, excellent thing, and you've got your name on a journal. What more can you want?
What more could a girl ask for? Exactly.
From a little district general like Barnstaple, I go to Barnstaple quite a bit, and I'm always amazed. It's not the biggest hospital in the world, but they also have very interesting patients. Whether it's something to do with the weather, the fact that it's a tourist destination, I don't know, but you always find something of interest when you go there, hematologically, and that's great. But thank you very much, Caitlin and Jennifer. I know you, and thank you, Jenny. It's your day off today, so yeah, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed the experience. We'll probably call on you again to give the enlightened presentation. That was great. Thank you very much.